indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I heard somebody down here. Very good, great job. I'm very proud of you. I like to hear that. Mr. Clerk.
Rick Colwell,
Here.
Mr. Lilly, sir. Mr. Roman,
Here.
Scott Ruggles, absent. Andrea Voorhees,
Present.
Mike Powell,
Here.
Liz Smith.
Here.
I just want to make sure everybody gets in here. It'll thin out in a couple minutes, I think. Okay, I'm looking for a approval of the agenda. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Supervisor, a number of items that were on the board table tonight. A budget amendment. There was a new list of bills dated 10/15/19 and the treasurer's report. Those three items need to be added to the consent agenda. Also, the addition of item 10J, which is a request of Aaron, placed on the agenda. And also, at the very end of the agenda, an FYI, we'll date that emergency litigation, title that emergency litigation. Also make a request to the board at this particular time that, because Aaron's item is the very last item on the agenda tonight, that we take under new business the issue of the police department wage increase, and then take Aaron's three items that he has on the agenda so that maybe he can get home at a decent hour tonight.
We'll move it to item 10AA.
We'll leave it 10J, but we'll
10J.
move it up to
Move it to 10AA.
those three items so we don't mess up the agenda here.
Good idea. Okay. I have motion, also looking for support.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Motion, looking for support?
Support.
Or support, all in favor? Aye. Ayes have it, thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 5, public comment. Anybody wants anything to say that is not on the agenda? Okay, please state your name for the record and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Eileen Colwell, Oakland County Commissioner. It won't take me 3 minutes, but I just wanted to commend the township for their reaction, and in particular Aaron Potter regarding the lead issue that had everybody pretty rattled there for a while. The way that you handled it, you were very proactive, and you worked well with the county health department and with the state, and I think everything was just handled very, very well, and I think everybody deserves to be commended for handling it such a great way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? That being said, public comment is closed. Moving to item number 6, consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the 3 additional items.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with additional items. Looking for support?
Support.
I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Item 7A, approval of minutes of the regular board meeting of September 17, 2019. Comments, questions? Looking for a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve. Make a motion to approve.
Support for discussion. I do have a question for you. I
Yes.
didn't know if you had received an answer that I, for the question I asked about IT rights, comments on the use of the new computers for staff versus elections.
I believe the inquiry is made, and I don't know what the exact answer was. We did have some inquiry on that. There is still some security issue concerns.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I have a motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. 7B, approval of minutes, special board meeting, September 24, 2019.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the special board minutes of September 24th, 2019.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 24, 2019. Looking for approval?
I'll support that.
Support, rather, excuse me. We have motion, support, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, thank you. Next, item 8A, Chief, presentation that you want to make,
Yes, please.
Officer to Sergeant here.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and the rest of the board, for allowing me to present Detective Wagon Maker, if you want to come on up. I do want to say that this is one of my favorite things to do as in my job. This is one of the tops. It really the only people that are more excited than me are the two people getting promoted, really. It's going to fundamentally change our department for the better, because anytime you bring new blood up and get them into the ranks, it makes the police department better, because there's more ideas, more stuff that they have to bring to the table that they will make us as a police department and us as the township bigger, better, and safer. So I'm truly excited. We have here Ross Wagonmaker. His wife, Amanda, is up front. We have his brother Paul, and his sister-in-law Laura, and nieces Ella and Layla. Where are they? Wave hi, guys. Very good. And your sister Beth is here as well. I just want to give a few a background of Detective Wagonmaker, and then we'll swear him up. I graduated from Petoskey High School in 1999, and then went to Grand Valley State University. Anchor up. That's right, best school. The best school. Graduated in 2003 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Shortly after, he attended Oakland Community College Police Academy, where he graduated third in his class. Shortly after, he became a patrolman at the White Lake Township Police Department. Since being a member of the police department, he has held many positions, including court transport officer, school resource officer, and detective. Ross received the Officer of the Year award in 2010, and a citation for meritorious service for a homicide investigation, where he did a remarkable job. He served on the union board for several years as secretary and treasurer, and has taken several other responsibilities, including underage alcohol stings, teaching at the Citizens Academy, teaching at the Youth Police Academy, and in-service training. He is currently certified as an evidence technician and as an ALICE instructor, which teaches school staff in the community, especially at Huron Valley Schools, the citizens and the teachers to respond to an active shooter. He also regularly volunteers his time with the Special Olympics and several other community activities. Jerry, you're up.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of police sergeant for the Township of White Lake, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
All right, we're now going to have his wife come on up and take the old badge off and pin his sergeant's badge on. Push hard. All right, congratulations, Sergeant Ross Wagonmaker.
Why don't we get all his family members up here and have a picture with him? You only get some one time around
Certainly.
here.
Congratulations.
Yep,
Get your
come on
family
up.
up here. Come on, you guys, come on up, come on up, come on up. Any other family members, come on up. Come on up. It's a one-time shot. You don't get to do this again. Well, hopefully you don't get to do it.
Well, hopefully they do. when
They
it
don't break
comes
them
over
rank
time.
and put them back up, okay? You know.
Amanda, you're just blocking her out.
Okay, I'll get on this.
There we go. Now, Ross, you're blocking Amanda. All right, congratulations.
You already did.
All right, next if I could have Sergeant Ivor come on up. I want to give a a thank you to Chief Ronald Stevens, who's on our Civil Service Board. He's in the back. He's an integral part of the promotions in this department, and he had a hand in interviewing and testing all the sergeants and promoted or put Sergeant Ivy #1 on the list. So I want to thank you for your effort, your dedication. All right. So I want to introduce some of his family. His mom, Debbie, and his dad, Larry. If everybody doesn't know, his dad was part of the Waterford Police Department for 26 years and retired as a lieutenant. So there's a line of a lineage of blood in the police department, and Matt has really stepped up and done a great job, just like his father had at Waterford. I know his Aunt Ruth and Uncle Tony are here. They're in the back, and his son, Jaden, is here as well. Very good. He's super excited. All right, Matt was born and raised in Waterford, Michigan. He graduated from Waterford Mott High School, and then he obtained a bachelor's degree from Ferris State University. Go Dogs. Still not as good as Grand Valley, but that's for another day. He started his career in 2003 with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office as a deputy in court services, then in the main jail, and we were lucky enough to hire him in March of 2004. He was promoted to sergeant in May of 2013. During his career, he's been a field training officer, a field training supervisor, a taser instructor, chemical weapons instructor, defensive tactics instructor, an SFST instructor, Narcan administrator, instructor, background investigator, and he recently was the Citizens Academy coordinator after Chief Sheldon left. And he recently graduated from the Northwestern University School of Staff and Command. He's a 3-time recipient of the Department Life Saving Award, 100 Club Valor Award recipient, 2-time Oakland County Medical Control Authority Life Saving Award recipient. He has hobbies that are listed here that I'm not going to say. Just because he likes to play darts, and that's all. That's all I'm saying. He likes to play darts. So Terry, if you would.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform
and I will faithfully perform
the duties of the office of Police Lieutenant
the duties of the office of Police Lieutenant
for the Township of White Lake,
in the Township of White Lake,
County of Oakland,
County of Oakland,
State of Michigan.
State of Michigan.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, we're going to have his mom, Debbie, come on up and pin the badge. There you go. All right.
And again, if all you folks want to come up, and let's get a picture of everybody up there, because again, you won't be able to relive this moment. Hey, thank you.
Get my big head. I just want to thank all the members of the police department, their husbands and their wives who came here. I'm super proud to be part of this department, and one of the reasons is because of all these people that show up to events like this. It makes me feel good, and it makes me proud to be part of the White Lake Township Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys got some celebrating to do?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're dismissed if you want to celebrate. So we'll let you guys clear out. Thank you again. The next item on our agenda will be a presentation that will give us some information and of a very important asset that we have in our community. It's called the Huron Valley School District. And our superintendent, Paul Salah, is going to kind of educate us a little bit, continue to do so, as we always should keep learning. And we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, first and foremost, let me just say thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I can't express enough thanks to you, Mr. Colwall, and Chief Keller, and the entire council for the partnership that Huron Valley Schools really values with the White Lake Township. I've found in my about a year now here in the district, I have found your doors to be wide open. I have found you to be collaborative, professional, extremely comprehensive in your approach, and I just really appreciate and value the partnership that the Huron Valley Schools has with White Lake Township. So I also wanted to take a moment and introduce one of my bosses who's here this evening, Miss Denise Pastana. She's Vice President on our Board of Education, and she's no stranger to White Lake either. And so she's also, willing to answer any questions related to the bond or the sinking fund ballot proposals that I'll be talking about with you this evening. So with that said, I want to take just about 10 minutes and just provide you a very high-level overview of what we are asking voters to consider on November 5th, or prior to that, if a community member votes absentee. So what we're asking our Huron Valley community members to consider is actually 2 ballot proposals. And this gets a little confusing because when the voter receives their ballot, whether it be through mail or they're actually at the polls on November 5th, there are going to be 2 sides to this ballot proposal. The first item, because it's a higher taxing authority, will be Oakland Community College. They're asking for a renewal. And then Huron Valley will be the next 2 items. The second item on that ballot is a 0 tax rate increase bond proposal. We have debt falling off in 2020, which allows us to go back out to the community and ask voters to consider a 0 tax rate increase bond proposal that will allow us to do a variety of things across our 16 school buildings in Huron Valley. And I'll touch on what each of those 4 primary pillars are in just a moment. The second ballot proposal, which is actually going to be located on the back of the ballot, is a sinking fund renewal. We're asking voters to continue with the current sinking fund that we have in place for the next 10 years. It's a 0.9109 mill rate. So again, it's a 0 tax rate increase, and I can't emphasize enough how important that point is. In 2014, we went out to the voters and asked for an increase in the sinking fund, and that was voted down. In 2015, we asked for another increase, and that was voted down. This time, we brought a citizens committee together made up of about 45 individuals from across the Huron Valley schools. It included representation across all of our townships, and we asked them to consider several priorities that would be important for the school district, and we asked them to consider what it would take to go out to the community, and what we heard loud and clear was 0 tax rate increase. And so that's why we're here as a school district. We want to get into a responsible cycle as it relates to capital improvements and infrastructure upgrades, to be in a responsible cycle of 0 tax rate increase. So I think I've emphasized that point enough, right? 0 tax rate increase? Okay, just want to make sure I got that across. So again, 2 proposals, 0 tax rate increase, and the focus is really on 4 main pillars. The first is safety and security. There isn't really a week that goes by where you're not listening to the news, whether it's on your commute and on the way into work, or you're watching it on television, where we don't hear something about some sort of travesty that has taken place somewhere across our country. And so it's really there's been a greater emphasis on hardening our buildings, hardening our infrastructure, upgrading our doorways, upgrading our are keyless entryways, so that when we use a badge to swipe in to get into one of our buildings, we know who's in our buildings, why they're in our buildings, how long they were in our buildings, because we've upgraded our security cameras as well, so that we can watch them on the inside and outside of our facilities. We know where they're going, and we know that they're where they're supposed to be. Another key element of this bond and sinking fund program is it would allow us to actually move the front entryways of our office space to the front of our buildings. Right now, if you enter any Huron Valley building, you'll notice right off the bat, or at least I do, because I've been in a lot of buildings across the state of Michigan, that patrons are not required to check into a main office immediately when they walk into a school building. And so if you've been in any of our buildings, right off the bat, you'll notice, think Lakeland, for example. You want beautiful atrium area, but from a safety security perspective, not a best practice. You know, a patron can come into our building and go just about any direction without us necessarily catching them before they get too far down the hallway. Now, that's not to say that we don't have safety and security protocols in place. We certainly do. But this will even further ensure greater safety and security for our children. Second piece that I would speak to is infrastructure and operational efficiencies. You know, we have over 1.7 million square feet of building that we're responsible for taking care of. That doesn't include our parking lots, our roofs, our boilers, our chillers. It's incredible what it costs to take care of a massive infrastructure like a Lakeland High School. And that doesn't include infrastructure improvements to things like water. You know, we're constantly dealing with challenges to our water at Bogey Lake and frankly at Oxbow as well. Long-term plan, we really need to be thinking about water at Oxbow Elementary School. I mean, we have heightened levels of arsenic in our water this year that we're dealing with. We've got the building on bottled water. We're taking the appropriate, precautions, but long-term, we need to be thinking about how we approach that as a partner. And again, I applaud Mr. Cowell, and I appreciate the partnership with the council, because we've been talking about water. I see a number of Lakeland students in this room, and I can almost guarantee you, if I ask them right now, I know what they would say they want out of this bond proposal, and they would say water, because I asked them.
Show of hands.
Okay.
Thank you.
If number 2 is bathrooms, show of hands. There you go. Okay. Because I've asked them. And I'll tell you, in 2019, frankly, as an educator, it breaks my heart that that's what our kids are asking for. They're not asking for improved stadiums and turf, and they're not asking for, arts enhancements and the things that they deserve and the things that we need to be competitive as a school district. They're asking for clean water. And so this bond proposal will allow us to continue that partnership with White Lake and to run water to the Bogey Lake campus, which not only affects Lakeland High School, but it also affects Lakewood Elementary School and White Lake Middle School. So, and I didn't even touch on parking lots and the civil engineering aspects of the traffic flow and the challenges that I'm sure many of you, if you drive by our buildings in the mornings or in the afternoons when we release school, the lines are quite extensive. So we will be looking at all aspects of parking as well. Program enhancements. Huron Valley, one of the things we pride ourselves on as a school district is we're not just about academics. Academics are really important, but we believe in creating opportunities for students to be well-rounded, contributing members of a global world, a global society. The days of competing with our neighbors are gone. We're competing on not only a national market, on a worldwide market. And so I mentioned we're a AAA school district. It means we focus on the academics. The academics are very important to us, but we also focus on the arts and we focus on athletics. And so this bond and this sinking fund initiative will also allow us to enhance the arts, the athletics, as well as the academics through STEAM labs, flexible grouping labs, updating our furniture, which is sorely outdated, purchasing all new band equipment. We haven't purchased new band equipment since 2001. Just to give you a sense, and that was the last bond that we passed, and just to give you a sense of what that costs for Huron Valley alone, it's $2 million just to provide band instruments for our students, which in today's day and age, for us to be competitive and create students who are competitive people in the workforce after they graduate, it's a key ingredient. It's necessary. So, and then of course, our athletic fields are end of life. Both the turf at Lake Lind High School and Milford High School are truly end of life. We will not be able to use them outside of the next year or two. That's where they're at in terms of their need. So that's program enhancements, and the last piece I'll touch on is just technology. And I'll tell a real quick story, and I've told this several groups, but I think it illustrates the point quite well. I was driving through town. I happened to be passing an Ace Hardware, and there was a big sign on the side of Ace Hardware, and it said, "Get your screen replaced here." And my mind went to this screen. I instantly thought about the technology that was in my pocket, and I thought to myself, wow, Ace Hardware is really branching out. They're beginning to explore markets that they haven't been in ever. But they were actually talking about, obviously, the screen on your back porch or your windows or what have you. But I just say that because, as a middle-aged man, that's where my head went, because technology truly informs the way I think, the way I work. When I want information, I utilize technology and technological resources to research. I mean, just to give you an example, I finished my doctoral work in 2011. I was writing my dissertation from 2009 to 2011. I stepped foot in a library twice to write my entire dissertation, and I read probably 1,000 articles and books in order to conduct the literature review for that body of work. That's the day that we live in. Our kids that are here for AP Government are engaging in a civic duty right now because they're going out to seek information. When they want to know something, they don't sit and wait for a teacher to stand in front of them to tell them. They Google it. So technology is an important aspect of this bond program and sinking fund initiative, because there are ways with which we need to diversify our teaching in order to engage students in higher levels of learning. That's more collaborative and really mirrors the workforce that they will be engaged in the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. We're preparing students for jobs that don't even exist today. And I truly mean that. So I wanted to provide you just with a high-level overview of the 4 main pillars that we've been focused on through this bond proposal. Each of the items that I discussed with you this evening were identified and selected by the Building Futures Committee, which is the committee I mentioned. Has 45 members, included parents, it included some staff, it included senior citizens in the community, it included students. They literally looked at a comprehensive list of everything that needed to be done in Huron Valleys over the next 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, 15 years. And they focused on that 10-year window, and they said these are the items that we need to focus on for our students to be competitive in the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So that concludes my comments, and I appreciate you allowing me and Ms. Pastana the opportunity to be here this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions from you this evening, or anyone who's in the listening audience that has questions. This 6-page mailer was sent to every home in the Huron Valley schools. It is just littered with factual information regarding the 2 proposals. We also have on our website, if you click on the banner that says HVS bond or sinking fund, you get access to the actual ballot language for the bond, as well as the sinking fund, as well as an FAQ document, as well as probably just about any other question you could possibly imagine. It's located on that website. And if you still have questions, you can contact me directly through email, and I will either respond to you or I will get you to the person that can respond to you. And I thank the community that has reached out, because I've had several questions over the past several weeks, especially as the ballot language has come out to provide clarification on specific details that folks are interested in. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Mr. Powell?
Yes, you did say it was a zero millage increase, right?
Zero tax rate increase.
Okay,
Correct.
I wanted to
Yes.
make sure
Yeah.
that everyone understood.
Yes. When you go to bed on November 5th, if this passes, the current mill rate of 7.9109 will still be 7.9109 when you
Glad you
wake
made
up
that
on
clear.
November 6th.
Thank you. That's been mentioned multiple times. I certainly appreciate that. Any other board members have a question? Anyone in the audience have a question? Any of the youth in the audience have a question? This is your future we're talking about here. Okay? All right. Very well. Thank you very
Thank you.
much for the presentation.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
And Paul, I want to thank you for making the schools a quality element in our community. Thank you. And they truly are of value to us because the reasons people move here are the schools and the safety. And we got the safety covered.
Yeah. I would say you do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Very much. Okay, thank you very much again for that presentation. I'd like to move on to item 9A, a resolution to establish dates for the 2020 Board of Trustees meeting. Mr. Clerk.
Supervisor, obviously you have a requested agenda for next year. I think maybe Mike might want to make a comment about our meeting. So other than I don't believe that any of those dates conflict with either MTA or clerks conferences or anything else that I'm aware of at this point. So that's my recommendation at this point, but I think Mike wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Terry, Mr. Supervisor. This board is being asked to make some very tough decisions over the next year, and I believe that there's probably a learning curve on many of those decisions that we really can't handle at a public meeting such as this, in educating ourselves for making these decisions. So I'm asking that maybe, and we can discuss this here, if we could add to the agenda on a regular monthly basis to set up a date for a work session, a study session for this board that is on the agenda, and then this board can discuss it and decide whether or not there's any item that should be discussed at that special, not a special meeting, but just as a study session or work session. We can either decide to earmark a subject for that session, or we can decide to cancel it for that month. And it would be a really good time for us to discuss, you know, maybe we need to discuss the water main that the superintendent talked about, and or any other item that comes up before the board that we want to let our colleagues know about and discuss and learn a little bit more about. And I just wanted to get your input on something like that.
Well, we have had discussion earlier this year regarding the growth that we're going through, the Civic Center project, and a variety of things that we have going on. And I had mentioned that I'd definitely be a proponent of having workshops. I think it'd be a little difficult tonight to set up potential dates without looking at everybody's kind of crystal ball, so to speak, and also looking at the current events calendars for municipal meetings and things, other subdivision meetings, all the other things, the training, fire department training, all those things that take place within our very, very small confines here. So I would propose that what we could do is we'll approve these dates as we have proposed before us. However, what we could do is pick out maybe 6 workshop dates throughout the year, and then we would potentially create more as necessary, and on occasion, as I have done, and as somebody called me, you know, I'm the special meeting guy, you know, the other day, special meeting supervisor, but to me, I'm not afraid to call one if we need it. So that being said, I'd like to maybe have some conversation with you, and we can put something forth and have proposed workshop dates maybe at our next meeting, after we review the impact that those proposed dates would have on the current schedules that we have.
So I wasn't necessarily thinking that we needed to set up a specific schedule of meetings, but call it the first Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of the month, or the fourth Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of the month as a regular item on the agenda, And then at this meeting, we decide whether or not to keep that. Is there an item that we should be discussing? If so, we take a vote and then we actually include that.
And again, I'm not opposed to that, Mike, but without looking at the big board, so to speak, that's in Mike's office and
All
going
right.
everything and how it projects out and how some of the meetings have traditionally done. I don't want to disrupt if a certain community group had it on a certain night during the week. I don't want to disrupt their schedule. We can work around their schedule is what I'm getting at.
So can we count on you to present this as
Absolutely.
an agenda item next month?
Yes, you and I are going to talk about it as long as you don't go on vacation again.
Okay, that's a deal. Thank you, Mr. McGovern.
Thank you.
I just want to go on record supporting what Mike said. We're going through right now a tremendous amount of growth in White Lake Township, and whether it be the water line at going to the school district or a subdivision or a item like Aaron is discussing tonight, particularly with our pump houses and improvements needed made, there's a great amount of information without necessarily making a decision that is an important ingredient to this board making even better decisions that sometimes
Exactly.
than what we've had. So I'm going to support your request.
Thank you.
Agreed. I
I'd
agree
like
completely.
to follow up as that as well. My colleagues know that I've been the chirping bird in everybody's ear about this topic of meeting more often, and Mr. Lilly and I talk about it all the time, so I'd be in full support of workshops. There's a lot of topics that we really need to dive into, and in June I asked to kind of perhaps have like vision planning, so kind of the same thing. We have a lot coming up with the Civic Center, and so I would be in full support as well, so thank you.
Yeah, I would too. I've been a proponent of this for years. My only request is that they'd be 7 o'clock meetings. I don't have my own schedule like some of us do, so 7 o'clock is generally the best time for me to be here.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they're all on Thursday, the third Tuesday of every month instead of the second Tuesday and the third, whatever. They're all,
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm all for this. I just don't want to call out a
Absolutely.
date until we look and see where the schedules are, and then we can pull some out. And I will work with you specifically,
Appreciate that.
and I'll hold you to it.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll come back with some proposed, what we'll classify as a workshop dates.
Good.
Okay.
That'd be great.
And then we can go from there.
Well, I'll just comment too, rather than setting up workshop dates, what we could do under new business is have a line item that is always on the agenda, discussion for current month,
Yeah,
work session.
yeah, we could
And
even
just
set the date that night.
Discuss at each board meeting if there is a
need.
topic that we need to discuss.
Well, we can, like I say, we'll delve into this a little
pre-schedule
bit
is
further.
better.
Because things that are happening are going to necessitate that we meet more often.
Yeah, good.
Did we get a motion yet? I'll make a motion to approve these dates on resolution 19-040.
I have a motion to approve the dates.
I'll
Looking for
support that.
support. I have support from Andy Voorhees. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move into new business. Before we dive into new business, I want to take a real brief moment. And in our, I'll be fine, consent agenda, we had a couple of new folks get involved with our township. And if you are here, I would like you to stand. Kathleen Asseltine, April Pakmara. April's not here. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, hello everybody.
Kathleen and April are going to be new to our Park and Recreation Board, okay? And we are obviously going to need some people that are going to be able to help us out. And my first meeting with this woman was many years ago when I was doing a developmental project, and I had her out, and I don't know how many months pregnant you were, and we were trotting around this tract of land that I was involved in to do a wetland delineation. And I found out her geology background and a remarkable background that she has and her love for the community. So we hit a home run on this one. I think we're going to have another asset that is, someone in this community that's getting involved in what's going on. So I'd like to welcome you, and I'd like to welcome April. I know you're out there somewhere. Yes, Mr.
I'd just
Lilly.
like to make a comment about Kathy's prior involvement with the township. She was a tremendous asset to this township when we were going through wetlands and issues that before, so I welcome her back.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your service.
But I was at my Parks and Rec meeting. It was under my understanding that April withdrew her name.
I don't have that as
Okay.
noted here from, that may
that
be the
was
case,
my-
but we'll find out.
Yeah,
Okay?
that was my understanding.
Information I have in hand
Okay, you're good.
comes from here. Next item is going to be the request to approve police department crossing guard wage increase. Chief?
If I could just say something first with Dr. Salah. I've already signed paperwork supporting this initiative. I wholeheartedly back this initiative. It's very important, critical that this passes for the benefit of not only the school district but the community. Like you said, a great community has to have great schools, and this will help achieve that.
Absolutely.
Just to move on from there, I'm going to request, actually I'm going to request a little more of if, instead of doing this each year, I'd like to present 3 years. They currently, I believe, make $12.50 an hour, and I'd like to increase it 50 cents for the next 3 years. That way I don't have to come back here, it'll increase it to, what's that, $14 an hour throughout, after the 3 years.
$14 an hour cap is what you're
Yeah,
looking at.
after 3 years.
So
It'll be 50-cent increase each year for the next 3 years to $14.
Well, seeing it is a job that entrusts our children to someone, and these people are dedicated and they do take the time out to do this, I wouldn't exactly call it the highest paying profession, but they love what they do. Some of these people, the kids get to know who they are, and they know your kids. And I grew up with a crossing guard in the city that I knew, and they knew me, and I better be on my best behavior because they did know my parents, and there was some connection. And it's that little bit of that public outreach. So I'm in favor of adopting your recommendation, Chief.
Approximately how many hours a day do they work? I really don't care. I was just curious.
So it's usually, I'm going to say about an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. So it's a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
And then we have individuals that are part-timers that fill in for the individuals when they can't show up. And it's usually parents that have kids in the school, so they're dedicated to be there.
So is this here in Valley Schools, or is this all White Lake Schools? So you would see one at
Every
Walled Lake, North
every
and West
crossing
Lake?
guard in White Lake, it's both.
Okay.
It's Huron Valley and Walled Lake.
Any
I
other
think we
board?
only have currently 3.
I don't have.
When I see payroll, there's not many. There's only 3 or 4
This,
maybe.
this is not a huge expenditure
No,
Yeah,
by
this
any
is,
means.
this is totally immaterial, guys.
No, I
Right.
was just curious. I had no idea how many.
Yes.
And I appreciate you going to bat for him, Chief. Any questions to the board?
Make a motion to approve the recommendation of the police chief for the crossing guard wage increase.
I have a motion to approve up to $14 an hour with the 50-cent annual increase over the next 3 years.
Or,
I have support. All in favor?
I,
Ayes have it. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, just to clarify the upcoming items that we take, item B, C, and then item J, so that Aaron can complete his
Correct.
portion of the agenda.
Okay. Mr. Potter, you're going to be item 10B, the update on the lead action incident. But before we get going on that, I personally want to thank you for all the time, effort, and energy that was put into working through that. It was a little nerve-wracking, and to say the least.
To say the least.
And I certainly appreciate it. And I will tell you that I am very proud of the fact that it was a timely response, everything on your part, and we are in total collaboration with how the state wants to handle that protocol. So you did a great job, and I thank you.
It wasn't clear what J was.
That's going to
benefit
be
of
the
the
service
public.
contract. We're going to slip that in here as the third item down.
He just said request of Aaron, so I couldn't even,
Oh, it's for a service contract for our sanitary sewer maintenance.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Potter.
I have an extra copy. Do you want it?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So, as we hopefully have all heard, we did exceed our action level for lead in our distribution system number 2. In our current round of routine monitoring for lead and copper for corrosion control. Couple of key things that I wanted to talk about. So periodically, we monitor for lead and copper for the purposes of corrosion control in the township. In the past, this was done for the township water system as a whole. This year, we working with EGLE on compliance with another administrative rule for corrosion control optimization. It was decided kind of in the middle of our monitoring schedule that it made more sense to split our district, our water system, into two separate distinct districts because of the types of treatment processes that we have at the well houses that supply those districts. So one unintended consequence of that was that out of our round of 30 samples, we did collect 3 samples in homes. All of these homes are homes older than 1988, where we know lead solder likely exists due to the plumbing materials in the house. Excuse me. So we collected 3 out of those 30 samples had lead over the action level. Now these samples are typically collected by our residents. We'll hand them out the bottle. They sign up to participate in the program. We'll hand them the bottle and the instructions. Sometimes my staff will go out there and coach them on how to follow the instructions. There's some fairly complicated instructions. And so one of the main elements that I tried to talk about in our town hall meeting was that under our old township all one serial number, one monitoring pool, these results would not have been an action level exceedance. The way that that's reported is at the 90th percentile. So you take your total number of samples, multiply it by 0.9, and that tells you where you need to report at. The samples are arranged from highest to lowest, and then you would take that number from your little equation, go to that, arranging all of our results from highest to lowest, and reporting at the 90th percentile out of 30 would have put us at our 27th sample, which was an action level of 5 parts per billion. I'm sorry, a result of 5 parts per billion, 1/3 of the action level. Unfortunately, under the split districts, we had 10 in our northern part of the township. These were based on population served, and 20 in our southern part of the township. And the 3 samples just happened to be all in the one district. In the past, they've been kind of randomly spread out. We do occasionally get 1 or 2 that are over. And that's why that 90th percentile reporting exists. We already know that there's lead there because the homes are older than when plumbing code allowed lead solder. So that was the material of the day. So this, under Public Act 399, there is only one response if you have an action level exceedance. It doesn't matter if you're a huge city or a tiny township. So we started working immediately with the state Office of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. Started working on a public advisory that was reviewed by the state, which is required under the law. We sent this advisory out with all of our water bills. In addition to the water bills, we sent this out with separate mailing to all of our multifamily residential tenants. And these would be folks that maybe don't get a water bill but still drink our water, that could live in an apartment complex or some type of multifamily residential. We also interviewed with the spinal column. We reported this on our township website, and we posted it on our Facebook page, in addition to interviewing with multiple news outlets. The idea there was that we are giving this information to the maximum number of people so that during our retesting period, we're making sure that folks have all the information that they may need if they choose to protect themselves from exposure to lead. Now, there are a couple of key things that I'd like to point out here. First of all, White Lake does not have any lead service lines that we know of anywhere in the township. Our system isn't old enough where those materials were used regularly. And so, unlike some larger cities, and some older cities that maybe have a lot of lead service lines. Our system only goes back to, the oldest parts of our system only go back to the 60s, and so that we don't have any of those lead service lines. So we specifically test in homes that we know have lead solder, because those are the only sites that we have in this township that are approved for testing under this requirement. We do not have lead goosenecks. So gooseneck is something that I've actually never even seen with my own eyes. After 20 years in this business, I've never seen a lead gooseneck used anywhere. But apparently, what it is some kind of a lead connection to the main that connects the service line. White Lake Township and most of our neighboring township use corporation stop that's actually mechanically connected right to the water main. White Lake Township does have corrosion control. So with our new water plant, corrosion control is already in place in the southern district of the township. And so we're fairly confident what we're going to find after our retesting, which is going to be starting after the first of the year. We're working with Oakland County and Housing and Health and Human Services, I think, State Department of Health and Human Services, to retest these 3 individual homes to see if we can gauge whether the testing was done per the instructions. But regardless of any of that, we'll go back to an increased monitoring period in this district. So for the next 2 6-month periods, we'll collect 40 samples. All of those samples, if we can find enough residents that want to participate, will be from homes older than 1988 that we know have copper plumbing and thereby would have lead solder. We have an online form on our website for folks to participate in that sampling if they would like to. We would appreciate it. We're looking for extra sites so that we can, get a good sampling pool that's evenly distributed throughout the district. So we'll continue to work with the state. This week, you'll see another public education pamphlet that will be following this. That's also required under Public Act 399. And then just as a general basis, because the issue here seems to be public education is lagging far behind. Folks still, even after decades of public education being out there about lead paint, lead solder, lead in your home, we still seem to feel like new information comes out about what we're doing and folks act like they're, they kind of feel like they're blindsided with this. And so we're going to continue to put these public education materials on our website. We've got links to Oakland County Health Division and the EPA that also have these materials available on their websites right now. And again, have for many, many years. So, that's where we're at right now. And I'd like to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. I think we really got a lot of education on this whole process, and it's still a learning curve. Everyone's still learning, and it's interesting how the government just keeps moving the finish line on this product. I mean, lead isn't good for anybody. There's no question about it. But how they, keep moving it is the more information comes out there and the greater knowledge.
You hit the nail on the head. The more new knowledge comes out, regulation is regularly updated. Action level for lead in 2025 is going down to 12 parts per billion from 15 parts per billion where it currently is.
Which
Like I said,
send off a lot of bells and whistles in a lot of communities.
we split the districts due to another administrative rule for corrosion control, optimization of corrosion control, and there was a pretty compelling argument why it makes sense to do that. I think in the long run this is going to make us all better, but yeah, it's very uncomfortable in the moment.
Mr. Powell.
Yes, I wanted to point out that I'm in the industry, but I also learned something at the public hearing, and that's that, first of all, I want to make it clear that we have no lead in the White Lake Township water system at all, and that the real issue is once the water gets to the home, your home plumbing may have some exposure to lead in the copper plumbing that's in your home if it was built before 1988. And some of the fixtures in your home as well. That being said, so what surprised me was that even if you're not on city water, but you're on a well, I'm on a well, most people might be on a well here in the township, you have the same issue. Because it's not in the water supply, it's in the home. If you're on a well, you might be exposed to the minor amounts of lead that are in your own water system or your own plumbing in your house. So that being said, you should allow the water to flush through your system before you take a big drink. You know, even 20 seconds, you should allow your water to flush. The other thing I learned that I didn't know is you should not be drinking or cooking out of the hot water side of your faucet. And I didn't know that. Certainly I knew that hot water increases the energy and the transference of chemicals and all that rest of that stuff. But bottom line is you should always take your drinking water and your cooking water off the cold water side, because the hot water side has a tendency to have more lead in it than the cold water side. So that being said, we should learn from this analysis that we are being put through, because all of us drink water, and most of us have homes pre-1988, and even those after 1988, some of our valving has lead in it. So let's follow the best rules we can, and I want to thank Aaron for pointing that out, and quite frankly, this is going to be an education for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
So thank you so much. I also want to thank you, Aaron. It was a great informational meeting, and the state as well. I wanted to just follow up and emphasize that was going to be my point as well as the flushing practice. I think that's really important that our residents are educated on that, and I believe the state recommended 30 seconds to 2 full minutes to flush your water before you drink it. So thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that was out there, right? 30 seconds to 2 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, and that is in our public advisory, and it will also be in our public education
Right.
materials. that we-
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Lilly?
I would again thank Aaron for his leadership. Obviously, we've come a long way in a very short period of time, and also in discussions with you, you had indicated that possibly in the future that there would be more information, maybe on a more common level to an individual, to actually be able to show through a house that these are examples that you can show the general population of exactly what we're talking about. And those would be very, very helpful.
That's, and I want to, there's a guy behind the scenes here that's got to get some kudos. Ken?
Yes.
Okay. You get, come up here so people can see what you look like. Okay. Now, when the meeting goes black or doesn't upload, it's his fault.
Oh, he does a wonderful job.
Yeah. I'd like
Which
to
does
thank-
occasionally happen.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Ken from Merge Live.
Yep.
Because he we had to scramble to put this meeting together on a very short order and in an unknown venue to get everybody together, so it all kind of worked out. So this is the collaborative team that we have, and he's one of the people behind the scenes, him and his group, that helps us get the information, the word out when we need it, and he's extremely helpful. I thank you, and we've also had some further conversations, which Mr. Lilly and I and Mr. Roman, we kind of touched about, and Aaron, that Ken's group is going to help us produce a couple couple-minute videos on some information. We're going to get them out there. It'll take a little while to get through this process, but people relate to videos, they watch them, they pay attention. We're going to do a couple home tours, a couple other things. I'm going to kind of plant the seeds and let Aaron run with it, but it's information we'll get out there to the public so that people know what it is to look for and they'll understand a little bit.
And I think what we can do too is we can break down a lot of the technical information and put it in an easy to understand format. So when people see this, they have a better feel for it. You know, when we hear lead, I think it kind of alerts all of us, you know, that we think of Flint, we think of all these things that could be out there, and we know that that's not what we're dealing with. We just need to be able to communicate that, and the best way to do that is visually.
Right. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate you being...
And thanks for helping clean up too. I appreciate
Yeah, no
everybody's...
problem. I can roll up courts just like the
Yeah.
rest of them. But part of the team effort, so to speak. But thank you very much, and we'll have future follow-ups on this as we get information and as we go through the process that the state wants us to go through. Okay. All right. Thanks,
Let me
Ken.
know what you need.
Thanks, Ken.
Yep.
Next item is going to be the Hillview Well House Rehabilitation recommendation to award the bids and approval to DLZ proposal. We'll give it 1 minute here. I can tell the hour bell went off.
Yep. It's 8.
You're all in trouble. You're only here 40 minutes. It's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Superintendent's gone. So. Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Okay, 10C, Hillview Well House Rehabilitation. Aaron, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So we have received bids for construction of the Hillview Well House project. Plans were available in my office. I did not want to include plans in this and, post our well house plans on the internet for obvious reasons. They are available to view in my office. We have a full set of construction plans and specifications. The plans include demo of the existing building, disposal of hazardous materials that may be on the site, construction of the new structure and appurtenances consistent with other recent township buildings. Generally, the design of the structure itself follows the Village Acres, Herondale Booster Station, and Dublin concession stand. Split face block, green metal roof. We're kind of establishing a standardization of these township buildings, and we're very happy with the construction of these buildings. The layout of the plant is designed to give a lot more usable space than what is there currently. So not only can we meet current codes, but also have a little bit of room to work if we need to work on appurtenances, pumps, things like that in that building. We'll have a separate chemical room to protect the pumps and electrical equipment from corrosive vapor attack, which generally is what's going on there now from, the existing building is the typical one-room well house design where you've got everything from your well pumps, a huge hydropneumatic tank, all your chemical accessories, chemical feed, bulk chemical storage, so on and so on, all in one room. And so that building was built in what we believe to be 1967. So it's kind of getting to the end of its useful life, and it's a critical asset to the township. We cannot meet peak daily demand during the summertime without this well house. So we would like to move forward with the project. The funding for the project will be local funds. No bonds or loans will be required for this project. We have money in our operating fund now that I've been rolling over for 2 years that will cover approximately half of this. The remaining half will come out of water capital. The lowest bid for the project was Reliance. Happens to be the same contractor that built our Village Acres plant. For a total amount, total project amount not to exceed $814,800. So I'm asking the board tonight to approve DPS to move forward with the project. I'd like to award the bid to Reliance, and I'm asking the board to approve and authorize the supervisor to sign the DLZ proposal for engineering and contract administration services. With that, I'll open up for questions.
Very good. Any questions from the board? Mr. Powell?
I have a question for the township township engineer, Mike. The construction of the buildings are pretty straightforward using modern materials. We're just a little bit questioning the metal roofing in the chemical building. How is that metal roofing going to be protected from the corrosive materials that are going to be stored in that building?
So the Mike Lefkin with DLZ, Township Engineer. The metal roof being on the top of the building will be separated by an attic area. We've got insulation.
Room is separately
Yeah,
ventilated.
it's a separately ventilated area room. It's got a separate intake and exhaust for venting the fumes out of the building.
I probably approached that wrong, Michael. Instead of me asking you what it's constructed of, I just want to make sure that we have it adequately vented and protected from the chemicals that are going to be exposed in that room. So I just wanted to bring that point
Sure.
up for a metal roof. That's
Yeah,
all.
as part of the design of the station, we needed to do a certain air turnover in that separate room.
Right.
I'm a little fuzzy on those numbers right off the top of my head, but 10 state standards is what dictates that. And I believe it's somewhere in the 10 air exchanges per hour, so somewhere in that range for the chemical room.
Yep.
But we're certainly following that protocol, and I believe those calculations have been submitted to the state with the design of the plant. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Lilly?
Yeah, certainly this is another needed project that needs to move along with the current construction up in that area and as well as Union Lake Road there. This is just another piece of the puzzle that needs to be updated and done promptly. So I would hope that the board would consider the alternate one that is going to start this project as soon as possible.
Mr. Roman?
Hey guys, does the 814 include security measures, fencing, surveillance cameras, whatever you guys are gonna need for security?
The project plan does include security cameras. There's no fencing provided on the site currently. The driveway into the site has a gate that can be locked, but the site itself is not secured with a perimeter fencing.
You guys think that's,
It's something that we may add in the future. We've had several issues with one of the neighbors on the site using the township's property as their personal access to their backyard for their RV.
you're gonna have a lot
We
of money
haven't-
in there.
We haven't had an issue, some of our other sites aren't fenced, for example, our Village Acres well house doesn't have a perimeter fence. But, it's something we can certainly consider. It wasn't part of this plan.
Now, Village Acres tends to be more naturally isolated by the geography and topography.
Yes,
in that
but it's
area.
certainly not secured
And,
to
yeah,
the level
so-
of anything that a fence was going to.
And I, for one, would want to be very cautious, because chain link fence it's not the most beautiful thing in the world. To include something like that in the middle of a subdivision with homes next to it, I think we ought to rethink, at least, maybe in the future, think about that.
Yeah, possibly. Well, right now, I think the measures that you have with the cameras and the SCADA and things of that nature put us in a fairly well protected motion.
And one more question.
Yep.
814, was that included in the rate study? Or did we put something in the new rate study for this project?
The rate study is still ongoing.
Still ongoing. Okay,
Yeah, that's not fun.
gotcha. Well, I'll make a motion if no one else has any other. Go for it.
I'm fine.
I'll make a motion to approve not to exceed $815,000 for the Hillview Well House rehab project using Reliance to do the work and allowing the supervisor to sign all necessary documents.
Thank you. I have a motion.
Awarding the bid.
Yep.
Probably want to.
Does your motion include the alternate one, Mike? To start construction right away?
I just approve, my motion was for the dollars and the builder. Did you want me to add a time reference, Terry?
Well,
Yeah, I would
Reliance
personally
didn't
like to see
actually
this
bid on
project
alternate
moving
two.
along. But
Mr. Potter, please clarify that.
Yeah, Reliance Building Company did not submit a bid for alternate number 2. They
so-
only submitted a bid for alternate 1, which
Okay, so we are
surprised at.
approving alternate one then.
We are approving
Okay.
all. Yeah,
So
we'd
we
like
should
to move
also
forward with the
include the
project.
supervisor signing the DLZ contract as well.
That's correct.
Correct. Okay. I have a motion. Looking for support?
Support.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Item which is 10J, which we bumped up, which is going to be the service contract for sanitary sewer. And I'm glad that you brought that to our attention because it's kind of an interesting
Yeah, so, sorry again about the late notice on this one. We've been kind of working with Oakland County and this contractor, Granite, formerly known as Liquiforce, that has done quite a bit of work in Waterford Township, as well as other townships in the general area. As you know, the maintenance of the township sanitary system is handled by Oakland County under our contract agreement for services, and generally is paid for under our contract with Commerce Township through their water treatment plant. So this year, under routine maintenance that was being conducted by Oakland County, they were televising some mains in our township. Found a couple of problems that were very similar to the problems that we experienced on Union Lake Road at the intersection of Elizabeth Lake Road. Mainly hydrogen sulfide damage to a couple of manholes downstream of pressure districts, and hydrogen sulfide damage to the mains themselves. So Karen Warren with Oakland County started to try to get quotes from their contractors, and they were unable to get quotes to have this work completed this year. There were two sections of the township that really needed some attention. One was some main on Ox Hill Drive, and another one was some main on Shotwell. So Karen, part of her budget for maintenance had some money under our current routine maintenance. This is a very important key distinction versus major maintenance, which is township funds. Routine maintenance, she had, I think, a little over $20,000 budgeted for some of this work on Ox Hill to be done under routine maintenance, and I think was working on submitting a budget for some of the work on Shotwell in next year's routine maintenance budget. That's yet to be.
Yeah, they're meeting with Commerce December, so that's pending approval. But
So Karen asked the township. She started working with DLZ and with Liquiforce to get some quotes and get a hold of some of their contracts with other municipalities in the area, because she's trying to find contractors that maybe would be able to complete this work. So DLZ obviously recommended Liquiforce that we've worked with in Waterford Township. Liquiforce has a contract that was approved and competitively bid by the city of Romulus in 2014. And then that contract pricing was extended to Waterford Township in 2015. And now they are offering to extend that same pricing to White Lake Township here in 2019. I'm being told by Karen that contract pricing is far less than their current pricing with some of their own contractors. So what I'm asking from you folks tonight is to approve or accept the offer from Liquiforce, currently known as Granite, for a as-needed services agreement, and essentially we're asking the township to grant a contract for 3 years to this company as an as-needed service contract. I've included the pricing here that they've offered for both of these projects. I included in this document only the cover sheet of their Romulus agreement, which was 90 pages long. I was trying to avoid killing many trees. I do have this complete agreement, and I would ask that we authorize our township attorney to review this contract and I think the county would like to get going on this as soon as possible. This is a cure-in-place process. So essentially, it's a no-dig technology. We're going to reline this main in place. And having this contractor as a township contractor allows the county to use that contractor for services in our township under their procurement policy. I think that the fact that this has been competitively bid by another government allows this to be done under our procurement policy. And the fact that this is an as-needed service agreement allows me to have the flexibility to not use these contractors if I don't want to use them. So I feel like this is a kind of a win-win for the township. It's going to allow us to get some more work out of Oakland County under our current budget that is not coming out of major maintenance. And, it's not locking us into anything as far as using Liquiforce, on any future work that we may have. But we are conducting a lot of inspections right now and kind of closing out, coming to the end of our SAW grant. So as we start sifting through that data and our report comes to us, I feel like we're going to find a lot of work that we might have for Liquiforce under major maintenance in the future. And that data is being provided to Oakland County. They have also provided us all of the televising that they've done under routine maintenance in an effort to share our information. So DPS would like to request that the Township Board award a non-exclusive contract for sewer rehabilitation to Granite Inliner / Liquiforce for a period of 3 years. This will allow the township to access many services on an as-needed basis. It will also allow Oakland County Water Resource Commission to utilize this contractor to complete the current project. No funds are being requested at this time. The funding for the attached project is coming from operations and maintenance budget through Oakland County Water Resource Commission.
Very good. Okay. This is one of the products, or I think it's one of the products that you and I actually, when we went to the water show, we actually saw some of this product displayed, and it's a spray-on lining, if I'm not mistaken.
Quite. It's
Explain the process, Mike.
Yeah,
briefly,
so
everybody understands it,
they
because I
do
know there was a
some of that
couple when we
type of
looked
work.
at it.
That's not what this is
there
gonna
is
be.
some of that. This
Yeah.
is most likely smaller diameter mains we're talking about, 8, 10, 12-inch sanitary sewer. Think of it like they pull a fiberglass sock through the pipe. It's got chemical resins and everything. They inflate it. They put some heated water into it to help cure it. And it's a cure-in-place material.
Like
so.
a stint.
Yes.
Exactly what it is.
Okay.
So the
Sorry, just
TV, the main, essentially, they TV the main and locate the exact position of all the inlets that come into that main. Clean it. They drag this fiberglass sock down through the middle of it. Like Mike said, they inflate it. It's cured in place with heat. And then once that's all done, they'll go back in and with a little robotic tool, they cut out all the inlets and off you go. You got a brand new main.
For a lot less money. One second. The board doesn't mind, I've got a couple folks in the audience that have questions. Identify yourself.
Susan Deal from TLVA. Can you clarify the Shotwell, if that's north or south of Oxbow that you're talking about on
Talk into the
Shotwell?
microphone there.
Oh, sorry. Is that north or south of Oxbow on Shotwell that the maintenance is going to be done? Do you know?
That was my question,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
This would be the gravity section of Shotwell that is north of Elizabeth Lake Road all the way to somewhere right around in the vicinity of the canal crossing. So.
We didn't come here specifically to discuss that project, so you may not have all the prepared dynamics of that, but the technologies are similar. This isn't the spray technology, this is the sock technology that we'll call it, that we used over at the Circus location.
Correct.
Where they dragged this piece underneath there. It was really pretty amazing. I watched it. It was colder than all bejeebers that day too. I remember being out
Yeah,
there freezing
and
to death watching them work on it. But it was pretty amazing how it works, and it's really quite a bit of savings to the community and communities, worldwide, this technology. So I am really appreciative that you guys are going out and you're embracing this and looking for ways to get the job done and to save us money in the same thing.
Yeah, so this avoids digging. That's generally why this is a preferred process, especially in an area where there's gravity main in a wet area. As folks mentioned, we're
The other one I was
very
referring
close
to
to
was
Oxbow Lake in this project.
when they sprayed the manhole.
Liquiforce does do that type of work. And I didn't review the contract pricing for that specifically
That's
because I was kind of looking for
another
this other
story for
stuff.
another
But
day.
The spraying component would be accomplished. There's 3 manholes identified for a spray-on liner in the manholes, but the pipe itself is the sock like we talked about.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Yes, Mr. Lilly.
Attempt to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
To accept an offer for as-needed services to Granite for a 3-year service agreement for the township attorney to review the proposal and authorize the supervisor to sign.
Motion looking for support?
I'll support if we can maybe amend that and just add per the sample contract presented.
That's fine.
Okay.
So, quickly on that, we're asking the attorney to review, and I didn't submit the entire
Oh,
contract
I see.
here.
That's right. We wanted to, okay.
I do have the entire contract for Romulus that we will be sending to Lisa for a review.
I was actually looking at the unit prices more than anything.
That's actually included in that contract. so.
Okay, all right.
Withdraw that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motions,
Still second. Oh,
Second.
second for discussion?
question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if Terry could add the term exclusive, as a non-exclusive contract.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want
Motion,
that.
support, amend,
You had that?
all in favor?
That's fine.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it,
Who
thank you.
supported that motion?
Mike,
Mike? Thank you.
can I use that for tree roots too?
Tree roots. You
In
have
my
tree roots in your
personal-
pipe?
I do.
No, unfortunately.
We'll get another
You're
solution.
digging.
We'll get you where you need to go.
I know a couple of people though I can put you in touch
Let's not
with.
say there's some other solutions here, okay. This is funny, water's gotten very important here lately. Sewer too. Okay.
That's the life in the city.
That's right.
Right?
Thank you, gentlemen. I certainly appreciate it, and we kind of put you together here so you can go home to your family. if you like.
Appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item is going to be 10D, the Senior Advisory Council request to waive annual massage licensing fee 2019-2020. Mr. Clerk, anything to say on that? Have you had a massage
Go
down there
ahead.
yet?
Yeah. No, I have not.
I'm just asking. Neither have I. But I keep thinking about going there. So.
It's always Terry's motion.
I'll make a motion to waive the massage fee for the therapist at the Dublin Center. She does provide a free service to everybody, and it's, I guess everybody must enjoy it because they keep asking.
You keep
for it,
asking
so.
for it. So, we have a motion to waive the fee and looking for
I'll
support.
support
Support
that.
from Andrew Voorhees. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Item E, request to approve demolition bid for 10785 and 10795 Elizabeth Lake Road.
About time.
These are, for the public, so they know those addresses, these are the buildings that are on the property, which is the former Brendel campground. As part of the grant requirement with the state of Michigan, we are required to raise those structures. And there are 2 separate bids because one of the parcels is being bought outright by public safety for the public safety building and is not part of the park, and the other parcel is on the park property. And Mr. Lilly, it's yours.
Obviously, we kind of jumped the gun a little bit. The demolitions will not be able to be completed until we formally close on the property, but part of this engagement was to get this part done, and also we're working on the asbestos removal inspections that most likely the state's going to require, so we're still in the process. We should have the asbestos identified here next week, or possibly this week, and then have to get a contractor to remove that. But will allow us enough time on closing to get rid of those. We went out to 4 bids. Bids rate anywhere from about 9,000 to 22,000. It's my recommendation to award the bid to Hoffman Disposal. The Parks and Recreation will end up paying for the property addressed as 10785 Elizabeth Lake Road, and the general fund will end up paying for the 2 acre or the small acre and a half parcel on the other one. So there's kind of a split responsibility there. So I'd like to move forward, at least identify the demolition, and then at a future date we'll bring the asbestos issue to the forefront, and hopefully we'll be ready by closing to move on these.
Very good. I'll take that as a motion.
I'll put that in the form of a motion to grant the request to Hoffman Disposal for the demolition of both properties. 10785 be paid by Parks and Rec. 10795 will be general fund contribution.
I have a motion, looking for support.
Or
And also it's subject to closing, of course, but.
And then I had a question. If in fact that one parcel will be the public safety building, won't that be an expense that's reimbursable to the general fund?
Ultimately.
Ultimately?
Yeah.
So as long as we keep track of that?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Which we will. Yeah. Mr. Roman, question?
Terry, you mentioned asbestos. Can you
Asbestos.
clarify
Asbestos.
where's asbestos and where does it? need-
Asbestos on one of the, at least visibly to be identified, is on the whole side of a garage on the parcel that the 10795. So we've identified that has to be removed, but we've requested that samples be taken on both properties to identify, and that will have to be removed prior to demolition.
Thank you.
And as with some of these particular products, depending on what level it's at, will determine whether or not it needs to be removed and where it needs to go, if it has to go to a special disposal facility. And this is being in compliance with all the state demolition codes and requirements. We have motion, we have support.
Was the motion amended to be subject to closing?
It was.
Did say
Okay.
that, subject
Okay.
to closing. Motion, support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, ayes have it. Thank you very much.
There's a hand up.
None.
There's a
Okay.
hand up.
Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a quick question about that. When
Yeah.
the cost of having both homes demoed, is that one cost for both homes, or is it two separate
Two
costs?
separate costs. They have to be broken up, two separate costs.
And what were those totals again?
The one was 9,462 and 8,918. Okay. Any other questions before? Okay. Moving on. Item F, request to approve Lakeland High School fireworks permit application. Mr. Lilly?
To make a motion to approve the fireworks permit as identified by Fire Marshal Holland.
Okay, very good. See Jason Trudeau is at it again, and he's very reputable, and we don't have any issues. I have a motion, look for support.
Support.
I have support from Mrs. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, thank you. Item G, proposed amendment to administrative rules and regulations, PA 202. As we have been educated and have learned, there have been changes in the OPEB laws and the different requirements that the state has. And this has now put us in a position where certain benefits that were available in the past will no longer be available as far as retirement benefits go to newer employees. Anyone that is currently on our system will still qualify for what they have, and that will not change. It'll be the difficulty is that now because of the OPEB problem, which that's the unfunded liabilities for retirement that many of you have heard about, healthcare in particular, which is going to be a constant moving target, as I'm sure your health premium has not gone down. So as long as this is a target out here of which no one knows, the state is being very mindful of that liability to communities going forward. So they are going to require that if you have persons that are hired in the public safety sector with exclusion of contractual agreements with fire and police, particularly the elected officials, that these long-term benefits will no longer exist. And that's just changing of the times. They don't want to see the state burdened down with these heavy responsibilities. We have a local community that is very close to us, so I will not name. Their unfunded liabilities are hitting the $200 million mark. You don't want to be wearing that bracelet, okay? So we're doing everything we can here as a township to try to minimize those effects. And I kudos to Mr. Roman, because every year he really comes after us, and we seem to put away quite a bit of money. I think we put $750,000 this year away again.
Yep.
Towards it. So we are slowly reducing that liability exposure for White Lake Township. And although it may not be a liability today, it is that inevitability of kicking that can down the road. So we want to crush that can before it gets kicked any further. So that's part of this action. Any questions from the board?
Just like
Mr.
to
Lilly?
mention, as I did earlier, that even though that these benefits are not going to be available to new people, that I think, in my opinion, that I'm going to say that we're probably going to have to look at increasing wages in order to get some qualified applicants again. So good possibility that may happen.
Yeah, we may be having a savings on one side, but we're going to see a cause and effect. I mean, so that we're going to see some ultimate, no one seems to know what they are yet, but we know that something is coming. So, Mr. Roman?
Well, so most of our groups within the township, we took retiree health care away from in 2010. This now closes up all of the groups. So basically, any new employees, electeds coming out of the township would not be eligible to get retiree health care. So if you guys don't have any questions, I will like to make a motion. Questions? No? So a motion to close the open member division public safety group for OPEB liability. Employees promoted from police and fire will retain previous benefits. This closing does not apply to present eligible members who are grandfathered.
That being your motion, looking for a second?
Support.
I have some motion, I have support for that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, next item is, Counselor, I think it's coming up to you. First reading amendment to chapter, the youth tobacco. I'm sorry.
So the first ordinance in front of you, both of these ordinances are for first reading. The first ordinance in front of you is regards to the youth tobacco ordinance. That's chapter 26, article 8. There is an existing youth tobacco ordinance. As you might recall, several months ago, the chief asked me to prepare an amendment to add vaping to the youth tobacco ordinance to prohibit vaping in addition to tobacco products. Well, and we've done that, but since then the legislature has come out with some legislation that required us again to amend so that the penalties are consistent and the regulations are consistent. So the first ordinance in front of you is actually making that amendment so that it is consistent with state law. It does in effect still prohibit vaping and or tobacco products to minors.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Supervisor, I move to the ordinance number, there isn't an ordinance number, but
Chapter 26.
Chapter 26, Article 13, Section 26, 239, youth tobacco and vaping products to second reading.
What article did you say?
He said 13, it's
I
8.
think it's 8.
Oh, it's 8?
8.
Oh, it's 8, yep.
Yep.
It's a V3, not X3.
That's right.
Thank you.
We'd have caught it on
Need
the
new
end.
glasses.
Yeah.
It's-
So, okay, thank you. And that being said, I have a motion, looking for support.
Support.
A motion and support. to move forward to second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, thank you. And Counselor, next, moving on to a rather popular subject these days, marijuana.
So this is another first reading of an ordinance amendment. This, while we indicated it has to do with possession of marijuana, it's a little bit broader than that. The White Lake Township already has an ordinance regulating, in fact, prohibiting possession of marijuana and possession of paraphernalia. And there's also an ordinance that deals with offenses involving minors. So this ordinance actually amends all three of those chapters of our current code to be consistent with the now recreational marijuana provisions, the medical marijuana provisions for all three of the sections. So that while recreational marijuana is permitted, it's still prohibited for individuals under the age of 21, so that we added that into our code. So there's a lot of redlining in here, and the reason is we're really dealing with three different sections of the code, but it is to make it consistent with the state law, recreational marijuana laws, and it's also consistent with the medical marijuana laws.
Very good. Any questions from the board? Okay, that being said, I would like to make a motion that we move on to second reading, the amendment to Chapter 26, Article 9, possession of marijuana. Looking for support?
Support.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
I will add that you might have saw in the news that a court has struck down, or at least put a halt to, the governor's prohibition of flavored vaping products. So that's still kind of an area of law that is unclear, but has no bearing on this ordinance.
Okay. Item 11 is essentially an FYI to the public out there. As you know, we are a community that has a what would be called a blended department, Mr. Lilly, and where we have career firefighters and we have on-call firefighters. So what we're doing is putting a call out to our residents, 18 years of age or older, that might have an interest in serving your community, getting a little bit know more about people in your community, and becoming part of a team. And it's a rewarding career opportunity potentially down the line. You'll get a lot of training, you'll learn a lot of different things, and you'll serve your community best of all. So with that being said, there's going to be an on-call firefighter informational meeting Monday, October 28th at 7 p.m. right here at our Township Hall. And if you want more information, please call 248-698-3335. Again, 248-698-3335. So, and being a part of your community and serving is extremely important. And I would think there might be some interesting young men and women out there that might be interested in taking this challenge and serving our community. Next, I want my board members to be aware of the memo that I put out, aware of the emergency litigation that was sent to you. We will get into that at a future meeting. At this time, there is nothing, no action totally to disclose at this time, but we are going in that direction.
You could tell the people what it, they have some of the issues are.
If they want to read the memo,
Okay.
let them read the memo. Okay. Next, we're going to move into trustee comments. Andrea Voorhees.
Thank you. October 19th from 6 to 9:30, the White Lake Historical Society, along with the Parks and Rec Committee, is having their movie in the park. Trick or treating, if I remember correctly, starts at 6:30, and then the movie's afterwards. Last year they even had it was a rain date, so they actually had a movie in the barn.
What movie is it?
As of last week, it hasn't been picked.
Okay, all right.
And then the following Saturday, the 26th, from 7 to 8:30, the North Oakland Storytellers are having their Fright Night from 7 to 8:30, once again at the Fisk Farm. I was lucky enough to be at the cold but rainy fire open house on the 29th. It was rainy, cooler, a little cooler, but they've had some new additions. which one of them was a kitchen fire demonstration. Even though it was like 50 feet away, it was still a little overwhelming to see what little damage a little bit of a fire could do. And I also like to congratulate Kathy Esseltine, our newest member of Parks and Rec. And finally, I'd like to finish off by saying that White Lake Township is now WOTA. We are WOTA, West Oakland Transportation Authority. You have someone between the age of 18 and 80 plus. We have an authority with Highland that will take you, and I'm not sure of the area off the top of my head, Rick, so help me out with this, but they can take you to doctor's appointments and stuff like that for a fee of approximately $4 round trip.
Approximately.
Yeah, really something that we've needed for public transportation in White Lake for years.
Now, the official start date won't be till January 1st.
Oh, okay, that changed.
So,
then,
but
good.
we're still in the process of formulating, meeting all the state
Okay.
necessities. But we're moving forward.
Yeah, we're moving forward.
So, okay.
If you need someone in the age of 18 to 80 plus that need adult transportation either to work, I work with a gentleman with special needs. He's going to be transported to Fox Run, so because he doesn't drive. So, thank you.
Very good. Mr. Powell.
Yes, I wanted to let my colleagues know here that on October 3rd, we had a meeting of the Community Development Committee, which is the committee put together to evaluate and study and make recommendations for the development of the new township property at Elizabeth Lake Road and M59 in that area anyway. It was a very good meeting. We got to meet Howard Kahn, who is the president of the Chesapeake Group in Baltimore, Maryland. He seems extremely qualified and has a great deal of assistance. He's going to be a great deal of assistance. The first step is to coordinate the relationship between the public and private sectors of the property, and then put together a public-private joint venture so that not only can the township properties be developed and the buildings be developed, but also potentially room for some private development, whether it be residential or office or industrial or commercial, I mean. And then ultimately, this company would assist us in pulling together the possible developers that might be used to develop the property and provide the end users of the property besides the township itself. So we're well underway to study that entire area, and it's quite an exciting venture.
Very much so. Very much.
The last thing I had was that this time of the year, I know that there are a number of communities that have appreciation dinners that the communities put on for those that are for those residents and volunteers in the township that devote a great deal of time and effort to have things happen in the township, and the other communities step up and actually put on a dinner for those volunteers and those employees that help the township through the year. And so that might be an interesting something to establish for future years.
Good idea. I like it.
Thank you.
Mr. Roman.
I want to thank all of you for attending tonight, especially those of you that stayed for the whole meeting.
Yes, you guys need a life.
Also, thanks to those watching live stream. And again, congratulations to Officers Wagonmaker and Officer Ivory on their promotions.
Very good. Mrs. Smith.
Okay, thank you. I first want to start out by saying I'm, of course, terribly saddened by the loss of former library director Larry Ostrowski. Larry was not only a colleague of mine, but a dear friend. We spent a lot of time together and had a good friendship that I enjoyed, and he will be sadly missed by many. I did attend his funeral, and I want to thank Mr. Lilly for attending with me. It was a beautiful service. It was a testament to a life well lived, and he will be very missed by many. I did want to mention, if anyone would like to honor Larry, his family requested donations may be made to the Friends of the White Lake Township Library or our White Lake Fire Department. The next library board meeting is Wednesday, October 23rd at 6:45. I also wanted to mention 2 things that are happening at the library this coming weekend. The Friends of the Library are having their first book sale in the new library. They're trying a new preview for Friends members on Thursday, and then the sale will be Friday and Saturday, open to the public. The art competition is still going on at the library as well. Library card members can stop in and vote for a piece of art that will be displayed in the library. There's beautiful pieces. They're all local artists. It's a really neat idea. And so you can vote once, and the winner will be announced on October 25th, and there'll be a award ceremony and some refreshments. All are welcome on October 25th from 7 to 8. I did, again, I know we mentioned, but it was quite the ordeal here in the township, and I wanted to thank the water department and the staff for doing their best to serve our community with a positive attitude. So thank you to all of them. Most of us attended the informational meeting. Education is key here. It was a really well-run meeting, and if you missed it, I do believe you can go back online and see it. Our board, unfortunately, wasn't able to speak there that night, but as I mentioned before, I just wanted to emphasize proper flushing before you use your water if you have any concerns, and of course get your water tested in your home if you're concerned about corrosion in your pipes. I want to thank our fire department for a successful open house. I'm so looking forward to our workshops coming up. I've been asking for this for about 3 years, so I'm really looking forward to that coming to fruition next month, as perhaps that's on our agenda. So thank you. I also wanted to mention, of course, we're all wearing pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I unfortunately lost a friend 4 weeks ago to breast cancer, so please take care of yourself and get checked out. It does not only affect women, but it affects men and pets. My own fur baby is a breast cancer survivor, so please be aware of that. Lastly, I don't want to rush the holidays, but I do want to mention a please save the date. The township tree lighting is Friday, December 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Fisk Farm. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lilly.
I just want to again congratulate Ross Wagonmaker to his promotion tonight to sergeant and Matt Ivory to lieutenant. I'd like to again thank the board for their cooperation for a lot of issues that come to this board that I agree with Mike and Liz that we need to continue these informal discussions. I know that discussions that Supervisor and Mike have internally are very productive, and I think would be even more productive for the rest of the board to ask those questions that are really will continue to make our board meetings more productive. So, thank you.
Thank you. Been an interesting last couple of weeks. Last week was real interesting, especially when you turn on the radio and everywhere I drove and all the travels that I had, I got lead in White Lake, Birmingham, Hazel Park. I mean, you go down the list of a couple of, and then like, you know, the news media never ceases to amaze me. They tell you a little tidbit to set the hook so that you can tune in to see what's going on, and even when you tuned in to see what was going on, they really didn't necessarily have all the facts in the right manner. It was nice that Oakland County Health Division was able to get some airtime and try to spell it out. And there were some folks down there that said this is not anything like Flint. This is an action alert. This is not a health alert. But all of us have got to realize that one of the things that Aaron said is so, so true. As our knowledge evolves of what we know, we can look back. Hindsight is always 20/20. And I know Mike, you know, from an engineering standpoint and my construction experience, and Terry as well, there's things that we've done, practices that we did in the past where we look back to and go, maybe that wasn't such a great idea. Okay. So you learn things and you try to apply them. We have what would be called a modern water system, mid-60s. And we're very fortunate that we do not have any of the issues that some of the other communities that were involved at this level are going to be facing. Interesting tidbit, though, there are many, many, many more communities who are in their 10-day grace period for turning in their water samples who have not done so yet. So it'll be interesting to see over the next few weeks how much of this is going to come to the surface. Now, you may find that this information might be tucked away on a page 19 on the bottom chapter, someplace in the news or somewhere in the internet, because that's old news already, you know. They've talked about it enough. But each one of those communities that's going to ultimately have this challenges to look at has to look at them with the best technology that they have today and the best practices that they have. We're very fortunate, again, the system that we have is modern, and we watch over it diligently. I have been working in the water department for some period of time with Aaron, and I have learned a lot about the system and tried to absorb some of his knowledge. And I know barely know on my fingernail what he knows, and you know, it's a pleasure to have him there. But it's all very important to remember that we are also a wellhead protection area. That means anyone that drinks water in White Lake Township, in our 37.01 square miles, drinks water that comes from the ground below your feet. Learn about it. Learn about what you can do. The water department is there to answer questions and try to give you the education of different subject matter. You know, there was a time that I can remember living in certain neighborhoods where this old gentleman, who remained nameless, lived at the end of the street. Whenever he would change the oil in his Ford Fairlane, would take it and put it out on the dirt road to cut the dust down. Boy, the trouble you can get in today for doing that. 1 quart of oil, I think, can contaminate like 80 or 90,000 gallons of water. So it's really amazing how much damage you can do to the environment with just the chemicals that you have underneath your kitchen sink. Be mindful, okay, where they go and what you do with them. So we're very fortunate that we live in the community that we do, that we have so many people that care about our community, where we have, you know, police officers that are dedicating their lives to what we're doing, fire departments dedicating their life to, you know, bettering our community, and community members who step forward to serve in our community in any capacity they can because they take an interest. And this is what builds our community and makes it stronger all the time. So I certainly thank everyone tonight for tuning in. I thank all of you for being here and listening to my long-winded speech. And I say God bless, good night, and I have a motion to adjourn.
Support.
I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.